What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. So, I want to give my review on HBO's Faceoff with Max Kellerman, Pacquiao Bradley Part 2. They met up again for the Faceoff, and I want to give my thoughts. So, I just watched it. One thing I will say, it was short as fuck, which was kind of like a tease. It was shorter than Bushwick Bill, so I didn't really like that. I was kind of wanting a little bit more, but it wasn't a bad Faceoff. Both guys stated their opinion. Not not too much happened. Like I've seen better face-offs. I think the face-off with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. and Sergio Martinez was more intense, but this one wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. Max Kellerman started off by playing a clip of his post-fight interview with Timothy Bradley, where Bradley was like, "I have to watch the tape to see if I won," and then he kind of called Bradley out. He said, "You're an honest fighter. Do you think you won?" Bradley said, "Yes, I won 8 rounds before." I mean, I don't agree with that. Even if you had Bradley winning, I don't think he won 8 rounds. And if he did, it wasn't 8 rounds convincingly. So I think it was a much closer fight. Despite who you think won, it was a close fight. And it's close for a variety of different reasons. Depends on how you score. Are you going off of impact? Whose punches look more noticeable? Are you going off of activity level? I think Pacquiao had the more impact and more pop on his punches, but I could have told you that going into the fight because he's a bigger puncher. And Bradley was more active. He caused Pacquiao to miss. Good defense. He got hurt. He was definitely the busier fighter. So kind of depends on how you scored. And really, I'm looking forward to this fight even more. This face-off was just kind of like a little quick appetizer hors d'oeuvre, and any kind of coverage surrounding it is amping me up for this fight. I like the fight a lot because it's a meaningful fight. 2 years since their first fight, it was a controversial fight, so I'm always down for the set the record straight type of fight, the i.e. Pacquiao versus Marquez rematches, or the fights. I don't know about now. I don't necessarily want to see a Marquez Pacquiao 5. I'll watch it just because they give it all, but I don't know if that's necessary. But you know what I mean? The fights like Chavez versus Vera, the rematch, I was looking forward to that just because it's a meaningful fight. Carl Froch versus George Groves 2, also happening this year. I'm looking forward to these because they hold a lot of weight for the winner, and both guys talk their shit. One thing I will say about Pacquiao is Pacquiao has been under scrutiny. A lot of people are saying he lost his fighter's hunger. He lost the fire. He lost that killer instinct that he once had. I mean, you got to look at it. This dude was fighting guys bigger than him like Margarito Cotto and De La Hoya, and he was really walking through them. Very exciting fight, and that's where he gained most of his popularity and his fans, just from putting on a hell of a show, knocking out Ricky Hatton and superstars in impressive fashion. And as of late, he doesn't necessarily look like the same fighter. He gave Marquez a good fight, but he got knocked down. Then he knocked Marquez down. Then Marquez knocked him out. In a round he was winning. And he had Brandon Rios. He chose to play the smarter fighter, outbox him. He really just beat up on Brandon Rios, dominated that fight in my opinion. I don't recall giving Brandon Rios any rounds in that fight. But typically other guys like that who, like Margarito, for example, Margarito is a big dude who had been fighting bigger guys like, you know what I mean, Paul Williams and whatnot, versus Rios coming up in weight. He's been fighting at, you know what I mean, 130, 135, 140. So a lot of people thought that Pacquiao was going to like do away with him because he's not as big and strong, so they thought, as Margarito, and he wasn't able to do that. He had, again, chose the safer route by just outboxing and winning convincingly on the scorecards against Brandon Rios. So it leads a lot of people to think that Pacquiao doesn't have the killer instinct. That's another reason I like this fight, because this fight will show that. And the big difference is Rios is not the same as Bradley, vice versa. Those are two different styles, two different fighters, whereas Rios is pretty straightforward. You know his intent, you know his ambition. I would say it's easier to telegraph. And I'm a huge Brandon Bam Bam Rios fan, but let's just be real. He doesn't fight like Bradley. And that's just a fact. Who's gonna argue with ego that Rios has a similar style to Bradley? If you do, then you're just arguing for the sake of arguing, or you're a fucking idiot. One of the two. But Bradley is definitely a slicker fighter. He has tons of experience fighting the likes of other Hall of Famers like Casamayor. He's fought people like Devin Alexander, Lamont Peterson, and so on and so forth. And Bradley, to me, has looked the better fighter. He looks like the more complete fighter at this particular juncture. And that's because he's had, especially since the Pacquiao fight, if you look at his fight with Ruslan, he was out on his feet and he showed that warrior mentality. He showed a hell of a chin and a sturdy beard and was able to outbox Provodnikov in a lot of the middle rounds and go on to keep his belt and win that fight and remain undefeated. And he had to really dig down deep, in my opinion, because he came out there fighting like an idiot with a chip on his shoulder and nearly paid the price, but he didn't. And I think that's because he stayed consistent in those middle rounds. Otherwise, he would have clearly lost that fight because he was definitely hurt. Then he fought Marquez, another brilliant performance. He made Marquez look every bit of 40 or 41 or whatever age Marquez is now. And not everyone could do that. Marquez is a smart, intelligent, tactical fighter. And he really made Marquez look every bit of his age. So props to Bradley for that. So I'm looking for a good fight. Really, what makes this fight intriguing is because Bradley, we all know, doesn't have necessarily the punching power. So to stay out of danger, he's going to have to fight the perfect fight. He's not going to be able to fight the fight like he fought with Ruslan, because we know Pacquiao is much faster than Ruslan, and he also packs a punch, even at this stage of his career. So that's really what intrigues. If honestly, if Bradley had more crack, like if Bradley had like Keith Thurman or even a Sean Porter power, then I wouldn't give Pacquiao much hope in this fight. However, the equalizer is that he has no power and he's going to have to fight smart, because I don't really see him stopping Pacquiao. And if he stops Pacquiao, Pacquiao might as well just hang him up, because Bradley's been in there with a ton of people and he didn't stop Ruslan and didn't stop this guy. So honestly, Bradley has to rely on like intellect and more skill to stay out of trouble. So it's going to be interesting. That's the variable that makes this fight very, very interesting. That Bradley's been kind of on the incline. He's had consistent performances, still undefeated, still slick, and has the ability to fight smart. But the equalizer, he doesn't have the punching power and the firepower to necessarily keep Pacquiao off of him. So whereas Pacquiao, when he's fighting Brandon Rios, might have been more cautious because he was just coming off of a knockout to Marquez, he doesn't want to get knocked out by Brandon Rios. And then, people would really doubt him, because that would be 3 losses in a row. And the last 2 would be by stoppage if he allowed Rios to connect something to the point where he got stopped or knocked out. So Pacquiao almost had to box the beautiful fight that he did against Rios and play it safe because he didn't want to get knocked out. Now, without that same danger of necessarily getting knocked out, he said in the first fight, which I don't agree, I think boxers embellish a bit, but he said he didn't feel Bradley's punches. I mean, he's still a grown man, like Paulie Malignaggi always says, another light puncher that is still a grown man hitting you. So he might not have the one punch Gennady Golovkin knock you the fuck out power, but he's still a grown man hitting you. It's still leather touching your face, just like the Ruslan Provodnikov fight. Ruslan's a tough dude, never been stopped before. He has losses, never been stopped. However, watch Bradley's fight with him. A cut still opened up over Ruslan's eye, and Ruslan looked fatigued and tired. So, I mean, if anybody doesn't come in shape, if anybody has constant leather rubbing against their face, you can still get cut, even if a fighter has a little bit of power. So, I mean, I think power is kind of overrated, and it's really because a lot of the casual fans, because you see this power and you get happy. Yes, it's exciting when people have this devastating punching power, but Angulo had a great poker face against Canelo, but I guarantee you he was sore the next day, and even though it looked like he was absorbing those shots, that shit hurt him. You know what I mean? So people misconstrue power. It's still a grown-ass adult punching you. So I'm intrigued for this fight because the stakes are high, and I'm really just anticipating what the outcome's going to be. It's really a 50-50 fight. Like I said, Pacquiao's clearly the more powerful guy in there, so he might not respect Bradley because he wants to get vindication for what happened in the first fight, which could be like a lot for Pacquiao or a lot for Bradley to endure. You know what I mean? But then again, you have the other element where Bradley has looked more consistent in his performances. He looks like the smarter fighter. Even in the first fight, he made him miss. Plus, he's more acclimated to the 147-pound division. One thing I got to say that I don't like is during the face-off, the whole idea of, does Pacquiao have that burning desire to be great still? Does he still have the eye of the tiger, if you will? And lately I've seen these face-offs, and Pacquiao just seems very mellow. And that's not necessarily good for a guy who's known for his power, speed, angles, and aggression. So they're talking about, do you still have the killer instinct? And with this whole religion, I'm not saying you can't be religious, more power. Praise be to God, praise be to Allah, whatever you worship. So that's not the question. But if you're still a fighter, you still have to, like, I've interviewed Luis Colazo, very spiritual dude, and he says all glory to God, and that's his lifestyle. That's cool. But at the same time, you still have to remain the same fighter. You know what I mean? You're still making a living. You still have to use your God-given talent to do what, you know what I mean, what your profession requires you to do, and that's to fight. So with Pacquiao, I'm not saying he's not coming to fight, but he just seems so mellow. It really makes me wonder if he's lost that killer instinct. I mean, every time I see Pacquiao, he's just like real chill and mellow. Like he's like a Filipino Snoop. Yeah, hey, 9-4 plus 5 pennies. Bradley lost that fight, Nick. You know, he just seems like real, like too laid back, and he's always snickering and laughing. Bradley's like looking him dead in the eye, looks serious as fuck, and he's like, "You don't got it no more, Pacquiao. You're a great fighter. You had your time. It's my time, and you don't have that fire anymore. And I'm gonna prove it to you in this rematch." And then Pacquiao's just like, like just laughing and snickering like a schoolgirl. So that really makes me question if Pacquiao still has it and if he still wants it. Like, why are you taking it so lightly? Like, why are you so lighthearted when a motherfucker's telling you he's gonna beat you, and the only way you can beat me is to knock me out? Bradley looks serious as fuck. He's like, "You're not beating me, Pacquiao. The only way you could beat me is if you knock me out. That's the only way." And Pacquiao's like, "We'll see. Yeah, we'll see." And he just seems very, very calm and nonchalant and callous and cavalier, if you will. So we'll see in the rematch. Like Pacquiao said, we'll see if he still has that burning desire. I'm just looking forward to a good fight. 50-50 fight, in my opinion, for the reasons that I gave. I'll get my prediction out there sometime. Let me know what you guys think. If you watch the face-off, what do you think of this fight? As always, hate, comment, or subscribe. Till next video, it's Ego, signing off.